sessions on ports and shipping and airport businesses last week. To further expose you to specialization will offer you, will give you some insights into the logistics sector today. Just to give you an idea, ports and airports are very important, but just one element in the entire supply chain. The cargo cannot move without connectivity to port and airports, and depending on from where to where the cargo is moving, it may require movement by more than one mode and might also require some storage facilities in the transit. So it can become very, very complex, and it takes a whole lot of fixed and mobile infrastructure and services to provide end-to-end solutions to the customers. And so logistics is all about providing these solutions in an integrated, seamless, cost-effective, and efficient manner. And today we have with us a very versatile person from the group, Mr. Sandeep Mehta. Mr. Mehta is a senior vice president at Adani Logistics. He has over 30 years of management experience across the supply chain in Indian and international companies of repute. To name a few, he held very senior positions at APM Terminals, Maersk India Private Limited, Damco, P&O, Netloyd, and DP World Mundra. He's a master mariner with over 14 years of sailing experience on all type of ships, container, bulk, tanker, and reefers. That's very exciting. He later moved from sailing roles into large, complex, and challenging roles across supply chain industry, requiring him to deliver on profits, business, capacity realization, and capacity upgradation. Mr. Mehta is a graduate of University of Wales, Cardiff, UK, with a specialization and logistics. We are fortunate to have him with us today for this session. Given his vast experience in the industry, he will share with us his insights on this sector. So over to you, sir. Shall I share the PPT?
Good morning, Doctor. Thank you very much for a nice introduction. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to your batch, and I hope you had some good sessions. Doctor did mention that you had sessions with the ports and airport sector also. So, if I may ask you for a couple of comments from a couple of people. So, how was the presentations last week on ports and airports? What were your biggest learnings? Anyone?
Yes, students.
Sir, Hiren this side, Rachna madam, Hiren this side. I just sorry to interrupt, but if Sandeep sir has turned on his video, I guess we are not able to see him.
So Hiren, my video is not on. It's my voice only. Unfortunately, you'll have to live with that.
Okay.
So
all right.
Yeah.
No problem. That's okay. That's okay, sir. No problem. All right.
Coming back,
So
I would like to understand from you, from the students, that a couple of them, how were the presentations? What were the learnings, couple of learnings you had from the session which you had with ports and airports? Anyone?
Would you like to use your mic and speak? They're writing something in the chat box.
Some of
I can
them
read it out
in the chat box.
to you. Yeah. So, yeah, Ketan is saying the session was insightful and we got to learn a lot about the risk involved and the policies related to legal issues.
Okay, thanks, Ketan. Anyone else?
Good morning, sir. Akash this side.
Morning, Akash.
Yeah, so we got to, it was great presentation and we got to learn about operational excellence, what was sustainability importance, then customer experience and operational efficiencies. Learning about that was so great, and It was great, sir. And regarding safety management, also, sir gave a nice words regarding that. So we love that, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Akash. So before we move on to the next slide, I would like to ask you, what do you understand by the word logistics and the word supply chain? Anyone?
Hello, sir. Dev Agrawal here.
Morning, Dave.
Good morning, sir. Sir, logistics is transportation of good from one point to another, and supply chain refers to sourcing raw materials to and delivering it to customer. The whole process is called supply chain management.
Thank you, Dave. Very well said. Hiren, can you go on to the next slide?
Is that visible?
Is it visible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So indeed, what Dave said is correct. Supply chain is the end-to-end flow, which includes procurement of the product and to the selling of that product. Logistics is part of that supply chain. It's about how we move the material and what challenges come in and what are the solutions. So logistics is a little bit complex because it is very dynamic in nature. A lot of things are under our control. A lot of them are not under our control, and that's where the challenge lies, and that's where the opportunity lies. Okay, Hiren, can you move to the next slide?
Yeah. So Rachna ma'am is moving the slides from her end.
Okay.
So
Yes,
that's perfectly all right, sir. Yeah.
Okay. So this is a slide which talks about just an overview of logistics chain. So I'm giving one example. For airports, it will be different. For road transportation, it will be different, but the flow remains similar. It is from the production site. It has to move. First leg has to move to a point from where the main leg comes in, whether it is ocean, whether it is air, or if it is land based, then it is by land. It could be also rail between countries, China to Europe. There are trains being run, so it could be the main leg, and then it comes at the point of destination, and then the last mile warehousing or to the customer. So that's the different components of a logistics chain. It involves a lot of points, a lot of stoppage points. Some of them will be under a control of one company. Some of them will not be under the control of one company. So how do we stitch it together? How do we move it seamlessly? That's where the challenge comes in, and that's where the opportunity comes in. That's the art of logistics. So I'll give you an example of what we do in Adani. One is, so we control the ports also. We have our own port terminals. So the cargo moves to, in the case of imports, the ship comes in, it brings in the cargo. Then from there, we take it by intermodal to wherever it needs to go into hinterland. From the hinterland, when the cargo is customs cleared, it may be customs cleared at the port. It may not be customs cleared at the port. It may be customs cleared at the destination point of destination. Once it is done, then the cargo has to be de-stuffed in a container. If it is containerized, it could be put into a warehouse, and then it could be delivered to the customer as per their requirements. So there are a lot of potential. I mean, it's not one way of movement. It's not that one size fits all. So it depends upon what the customer needs. Can we provide that need? And that's where the complexity lies. Some companies do it. They do only one part of the supply chain, one part of the logistics chain. That is, if we are really going to add value, then we have to look at end to end, and that's where we come in. as Adani, because we control the ports, we control the end destination, and how do we stitch the solutions together for the customers. Now, in India, there are a lot of challenges which comes with this management of the logistics chain. Doctor, can you move to the next slide?
Yes, yes.
Now, coming to the logistics cost, when the markets were good, and I'm talking about till about 4-5 months ago, logistics as part of the product, not many companies took it very seriously. The cost of logistics in a product in India or developing part of the world is about 18%. In developed countries, Europe, US, Australia, it's between 8 to 10%. Now, that's a considerable difference between Western world or developing world. When the markets were good, not many companies paid too much of attention to it. When the markets are bad, which it is the case now, this was a similar case in 2009-10, and that's when people are looking at, companies are looking at cutting costs. The focus comes on logistics. Now it's a question of removing the wastage. It's not about reducing cost. For any company to reduce cost, the best thing to do is shut down the business. No business, no cost. However, that's not how the industry works. That's not how the world works. It's about reducing wastage. So in case of logistics cost, the first thing comes into mind, it's transportation. It's not only transportation. There is also something called an inventory holding cost. So you may be very good at transporting effectively, but if you're holding of an inventory, if you have an inventory of 2 months, 4 months, it comes at a cost. That all adds to the cost of the product. How do you reduce it? So that's where the challenge comes in, is to understand the supply chain of the customer, understand what is required by the customer, and then come to a solution for a customer. In developing part of the world, there is a lot of challenge because there are so many legs involved. There is, the companies are not there, the logistics companies are not there who are good at all these different parts of the supply chain. They deliver what they promise. And that's where the challenge lies, in reducing the logistics cost. And that's why in developing part of the world, and it's not only in India, it's in most developing countries, the logistics cost is extremely high. And that's where the efficiency can be built in. Are you with me till now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Already post
Yes, sir.
also
Yes,
few
sir.
questions
Yes,
and
sir.
we'll take later.
If you have any questions, you can ask. If you have any doubts, you can ask. You don't have to wait till the end of the discussion.
Okay, so maybe I'll just post some questions here. The Yashraj is asking, sir, as there are so many big players in the logistics market, is the market saturated or can new players come in the future?
Good question. There are too many players. Again, the question is, do they provide end-to-end? Not many are there. So yes, the market is needing somebody who can deliver end-to-end. At the end of the day, the world has become so small. People do not care how it is being done. What they need is the end results. The companies today, the companies who need this logistic services, their core activity is not about logistics. Say, I'll give you an example. Maruti. What is their core product? It's to build vehicles and sell vehicles. Logistics is not their core product. Now they require inbound materials. They require a lot of inbound materials, different components. They do not manufacture anything actually. Everything is. There are suppliers who supply these parts. They assemble it, they do the R&D, and then they send it out, the finished product, to the market to sell. Logistics. So there are many players who provide these services. There are too many players. So what Maruti or any other company for that matter, they have a logistics department. Now, what does the logistics department do? They coordinate with all these different companies who provide certain part of that logistics chain services for that. Now, it's a lot of administrative work for them. Would they want a company who can provide them end-to-end solution, end-to-end visibility? Yes. And that's where the difference comes in. So if they're the companies that are there today, if there are other companies who come in providing a similar service, yeah, then there is an oversaturation. Does that answer your question? Yash?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So Pooja has asked a question: how could a supply chain create more value? What are the risks involved? A very good question. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll have enough time to answer that question because it's a very complicated subject. But I'll try and attempt it in a few words. Supply chain can add value. It's about reducing wastage. Now, the wastage could be in transportation. Wastage could be in reducing inventory loss, reducing inventory altogether. It could be warehousing. It could be every element. Now, the question is, how do you reduce that cost to, if it is 18% today supply chain, can it be down to 20%? I do not know. Okay, let me give you an example. How many of you have heard of a company called Zara?
So probably the most, like all of us.
Okay. So what do you, okay, tell me something about Zara.
It's a big brand, like it's not affordable by the normal person. Basically, the costs are very high.
Okay, let me give you an example about Zara. Zara
They design themselves clothes. Sir, the Zara, Indian Zara business is held by Tatas, and they are like it's an European company designer.
Okay. So Zara is part of a Spanish company called Inditex. One of the key point for them is that if there are fashion items available in Paris during the catwalks on day one, they will have that material in the store on day 7. Their supply chain is extremely efficient. I have worked with them as a customer of mine. They have 8,000 plus shipments, air shipments going out from the factories every single day. They have no ocean shipment. Ocean is the cheapest form of transport. They have all of their shipments are air shipments. They have delivery of twice a week to every Zara store in the world. What do they achieve with it? If the stock is there, if you like something, pant, shirt, skirt, whatever it is, you go to a Zara store. If you don't find it, you will get it on the 3rd day or 4th day from there, because they have a delivery twice a week. What do they eliminate by doing this? They eliminate any warehousing, any inventory holding cost. So they pay higher on the transportation leg, air shipments rather than ocean shipments, but they negate that increase in transportation cost by having zero inventory cost. There is no inventory loss. This is a very fast moving, high fashion items are very fast moving. They don't have it. So the fashions change. If they have made a stock, what do they do with the stock? And they have to sell, the companies have to sell it at a lower price, at a discounted price. Zara avoids all that. So supply chain can add a lot of value depending upon what the outcome is, what does the company want. So it is not simply about moving cargo from one point to another. That's the simplest way of doing it. It is about adding value. How do you reduce the cost overall? How do you make the product a lot more competitive? So Zara, yes, you may say it is a little bit more expensive because their value is that they are on time with the fashion, what is in the industry. They do not have old stocks. So whatever you see is available in Europe, same thing will be available in India, same thing will be available in Philippines in the same week. That's their value. Does that answer your question?
Yes,
Hemant
sir.
Hemant is asking, what are the bottlenecks in supply chain and logistics?
Okay, good question. Doctor, can you move to the next slide?
Yes. Okay, yeah, it's here. Is it? Yes.
So these are the bottlenecks in logistics, especially in the developing world. Lack of infrastructure. That's what you are there for. You're doing a course on infrastructure management. Lack of infrastructure, right infrastructure at the right place. That's the biggest bottleneck. Fragmented logistics market. One of the questions asked is, too many companies are there. Is there enough place for another company? Yes and no. The market is very fragmented. So having too many companies vying for the same cargo, does it create competition? Yes, it creates competition, but to the extent that it is detrimental. And also government policies. Policies, especially in the developing parts of the world, do not keep up with times. We keep on changing. The world is moving at a very fast pace. Are the policies changing with times? Not really. What it does create is, for the end customers, they have to deal with multiple stakeholders. One person is doing the port clearance. Then there is a custom clearance done by another company. Then there is a container freight station where the clearance happens. That may be another company. Then there would be a rail transportation done by another company. Then there would be warehousing done by another company. Then there would be last mile delivery to the customer, another company. Now, as a customer, they have to deal with so many stakeholders. What it creates is lack of visibility. They do not really have visibility. It creates delays. And it brings in inefficiency, which increases the cost. So these are the main bottlenecks. Are we clear?
And one related question is from Prashant. He is asking, what are the challenges with inventory management in reverse logistics?
There are challenges in the reverse logistics also. Reverse logistics is, again, do you get the material back in time? Again, the same issue comes in, do you recycle them? So it depends upon industry to industry. It is very different world which we are going to move to. Today, if I ask you a question, if you asked a question on how many companies are there, can you name a couple of logistics companies in the world? Which company?
TNT.
TNT, DHL, Concor.
Concor, sir.
Okay.
PRL.
Okay.
Snowman Logistics, sir.
Okay.
Federal Express. Q-Dart.
Okay. Very nice. How many of you would consider Amazon as a logistics company?
So it is.
So traditional companies, your DHLs, TNTs of the world, they are traditional logistics companies. Amazon did not start as a logistics company. It was a marketplace. What they did was reverse integrate their logistics. So in today's world, it's not a direct competition is not the traditional logistic companies. It's also companies like DHL, Amazon, companies like Alibaba, they are also the sellers. They also procure from suppliers and they do their own logistics. So they are becoming a competition to traditional logistics companies. Now, back integrating those reverse logistics is again a challenge. And these companies are trying to reduce that cost, reduce that lack of transparency to ensure that they survive. These companies are today, their margins are very, very thin. So every little penny, every saving helps. That's where the challenge comes in about logistics. How do you reduce your costs, reduce your wastages? Every handover, there is a wastage. If your reverse logistics is being done integrated by one company, so you are not making margin on margin on margin. Now, when I said earlier that okay, there is ocean which is handled by the port, then there is a CFS, then there is a rail operator, then there is a warehousing operator, and then there's a truck operator. Now, all these companies, they are not doing charity. They will always have margins, margins on margins on margins on margins, which increases the cost for the customer. Now, if there is one company who is doing everything, whether it is forward logistics or whether it is reverse logistics, back integrating, if one company is there, not the margins will not be added on margins on margins on margins. And that's where the wastage comes in. So there are challenges. There are multiple challenges. The challenges are very different. Lack of infrastructure is one big challenge. Lack of policies. Now the question is policies, customs, regulations in India, for example. How the customs in India are still not online. Now, only in the last 3 months, they have started looking at making it online. Otherwise, the cargo is sitting in the ports, cargo is sitting at the airports, paperwork has to be filed, paperwork has to be processed, paperwork has to be taken to the facility for clearances. Now, all this takes time, all this creates costs. All results in additional cost for the customer. They do not get their product in time. Kanika, you asked a question, how does COVID-19 impact logistics entirely? Oh, very good question. The world was shut down. There was a lockdown in the world. It was in India. What happened to the logistics? You heard in the news, the truckers stopped completely. 3 months, there were no trucks on the road. What happened to the logistics? So it has impacted because the traditional form of transportation, traditional form of logistics is being questioned now. Is it even effective? So there are always solutions. There are problems. However, there are always solutions. It's about finding the right one. I mentioned about customs, paperwork. Now they are trying to make it online. So does it reduce logistics cost? Does it provide a solution? Yes. Look at you. How many of you thought that you will be doing an online course for a semester? How many of you are attending the classes physically? Isn't that logistics?
We're not attending, sir.
There you go. Isn't it logistics? Coming from home to a classroom physically to attend a class is also logistics. At the end of the day, is there a solution in place today? Yes, there is. Is it very effective? It will take some time. However, that is also logistics, that at the end result is what? It's about getting what you want. It's the education. It's the learnings. Do you have to go to the class every time? Is that the only way? The question is, we have to look beyond what we are used to. And that's what COVID is teaching us. This is the time where we were so used to, this is how it happens in the past. And this is for every one of us. We have to question ourselves that, okay, is that the only way of doing things? Can it be a different way of doing things? So moving on, Doctor, can we move to the next slide?
Yes, we can. Saurabh is asking how logistics industry is adapting to new normal at these times.
The companies
later.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, it's a good question. Companies who are adapting, who are embracing the change, who are looking in the future, not looking with their heads turned at the past, they will survive. So their logistics companies are also going through a very tough time, globally as well as in India. So the companies who are not embracing the change, who are fighting the change, they will have challenges. They might not even survive. So today the world is going to be very different in the future. It's going to be extremely different from what it was in the past. And what we what we used to call as a normal, well, the normal will change. So once we start getting used to it, that will become a normal. So yeah, world is going through go through a big change. Coming back to India, logistics in India is very fragmented. There is very poor integration between different parts of the logistics chain, ports, logistics parks, movement by rail, warehouse, movement of bulk cargo by rail, inland waterways. It's another mode of transport. Trucking is another mode of transport. Air freight station for air cargos. The market is pretty big. Are there companies who are there everywhere? Not really. You talked about one of you mentioned a logistics company called Concor. Concor is the largest container train operator in India. It's a public sector undertaking under the Ministry of Railways. Are they the most diversified rail operator? Not really. Do they do end-to-end solutions for the customers, provide end-to-end services? Not really. Have they evolved? Not really. Now, this is our perception. They have not evolved. Are they good at what they do? Yes. However, the world requirements are changing. And especially during this COVID impact, the world is changing. Will they survive? Let's see. Time will tell. Okay, can we move to the next slide?
Yes, this one or the next one?
Next one.
I think the next one. Okay, this is this visible?
Yes. So coming to now Adani, APSEZ. What is APSEZ? You had a presentation on APSEZ also, ports, seaports, so I will not take too much time here. Adani is operating 9 ports. We are making the 10th one, Vizhinjam. We bought Krishnapatnam, so that takeover is ongoing right now. We have a market share of 22% in all India cargo. The difference between Adani and the other competitors, so-called competitors of Adani, is first is that we are ports, we are not terminals. We handle different kinds of cargos. We are in liquid cargo, we are in now LNG, we handle bulk cargos, we handle break bulk cargos, and we handle containers. So we have spread our risk when the right now where the situation is, current situation is that if you were in one business, one typical business, if the market is coming down, then there's a lot of challenge. But if you have a multi-product basket, then yes, some businesses will go down. Will the others take that load? Yes. And that's where the advantage is for us. Now, until until about a couple of years ago, we were also looking at only the ports, handle in the ports, and then the customer takes over the cargo outside the gate. But that's where the challenge is coming in, is that once you have the cargo, if you deliver the end-to-end service to the customers, one is that you keep that business, you create a stickiness with the customer, and you make more money at the end of the day, because you're providing different services. There is always a margin on those different services that you're providing. So you make more money, but what you also do is you create a stickiness with the customer. Our business, logistics business, has become very commoditized. So the value which you are adding today In today's world, the value looked at by the companies is purely on the cost. Now, I mentioned that Maruti, for example, I mentioned that they have a logistics department. They look at the cost. Their target is to reduce cost, but their target is to reduce cost on different elements. They do not look at the complete picture. The logistics department does not look at, okay, are they holding materials also? They look at, okay, transportation cost. Majority of the companies in India, they are only bothered about the transportation cost. So it's about providing end-to-end services, and that's where we come in, providing a solution to the customers, making them aware that yes, it's not only about reducing cost, it is about reducing cost in one leg, it's about reducing cost overall. That's where the value comes in. Doctor, can we move to the next slide?
Yes. Mr. Mehta, Yashraj is asking about the multimodal logistics parks. That how do these parks make profit, and what should be an ideal location for the project? Would you like to take it now?
I will take it 2 slides from now. It will answer.
Okay.
So, as I mentioned earlier, APSEZ, Adani Logistics is part of APSEZ. It's about expanding the horizon outside port scale. When the cargo is coming to the port, we already have that customer. Now, can we extend our services to that customer? Look outside the gate. What is this? The cargo has to move to or from the port. Other companies do it. Can we do it ourselves? That's where Adani Logistics comes in. It's about providing end-to-end solution. It's about simplifying the supply chain. So that's where we create an intimate connection. That's where we create a value. That's where we create stickiness with the customer. That's where we provide transparency. If we are in control of the full supply chain, from the port to the customer factory, or from the customer factory to the port, if we are control of that part of that supply chain, then we can provide transparency also, and then we can deliver what we are promising. Because we are not dependent upon any other company to deliver that. Next slide. So this is where we come in, simplifying supply chain solutions. In India, we are focusing on creating solutions which are infrastructure based. So we develop infrastructure and we operate that infrastructure, because that's where the control comes in. India being part of the developing world still, we do not have standard companies who provide those services like they do in Western parts of the world. So we have to control that infrastructure, because then we control what we promise. So multimodal logistics park, air freight stations, warehouses, we are also in silos. Providing, so that is the infrastructure. The other part of the infrastructure is the modes of transport. It could be rail, it could be trucking, it could be inland waterways. Right now, we are focusing on only these three. And then there is an ecosystem, ports, airports, and rail terminals. It's about creating a whole ecosystem, providing services to the customer in this arena. Now, one of the questions asked is asked, can we expect any big wave in technology? Yes, we can, because all these solutions have to stitch together, and the only way we can stitch together is by technology. I'll give you a simple example. I worked on with a company who was using AI 4 years ago. We used to call it was an AI. We used to call it Rosie. Rosie was a robot. It was artificial intelligence which would learn. It would go on to the customer's website, pull out data, do all the analysis what needed to be done, and then it would present the report to us when we were in the office in the morning. So the first way of reducing costs is you are talking about, you've seen call centers, you're saying that you are the companies, what they are doing, they are outsourcing to call centers. So multiple locations, having multiple staff, Can you have a call center where you are backending all the technological work using technology? You are backending the work by creating that efficiency. That was phase one. What this artificial intelligence did it was, and this is a live example. It's not a story. It's a live example. Moving from front office to back office, we reduced our cost. We improved our efficiency. This one AI implementation reduced 8 people in a back office. Working 24/7, no mistakes. So technology will always be helpful. It's a question of how many companies are looking at technological advances using technology. Yes, it costs money initially to implement it. However, it pays back over a period of time. No errors. Every error costs time and money. So technology will be the way to go forward. The biggest challenge in the world today is in a supply chain, there are many components, there are different components. Is there technology available which connects all those different components on one platform? Not really. We did our own example. I'll give you. We had consultants coming in, global consultants coming in, looking at, okay, do they know of any company who has that end-to-end visibility? Not really. So there are companies who are good at different parts of logistics. Technologically, are the systems talking to each other? Not really. And that's where the biggest challenge is, and that's where the biggest opportunity is. Coming back to multimodal logistics park, how many of you understand what multimodal logistics park actually is?
Yes, anyone?
Sir, it is a whole ecosystem where the stocks come in and it is channelized to different parts of the where the demand is.
Okay, good attempt. Anyone else would like to add anything?
So it's a policy of government, sort of like they work on reducing pollution. They work on like our services.
Okay, let me give you an example. Let me take you through a flow of movement. The cargo comes to the port. It's an import cargo, import shipment, say a container. So if it's an import, it is under bonded movement, that is under customs until it is customs clear. So it has to come to the port. It can move out of the port by road or by rail in India today. We do not have inland waterways in the port. So it moves by road or by rail. Then it comes to an inland container depot. Inland container depot is a customs notified facility where the custom clearance takes place. What happens to the cargo then? Two ways of moving that cargo. Either the cargo moves, if the container moves directly to the factory and the customer takes delivery, or the cargo has to go to a warehouse where the container has to be destuffed and the container has to be returned back to the shipping line. From their warehouse, the cargo has to be delivered to the customer as per their need. Now, where does multimodal logistics park fit in your view? This is a normal chain. This is a normal movement flow of cargo. Where do you think multimodal logistic park fits in?
Sir, a place which is nearer to a port.
Okay.
Sir, a depot and a warehouse will be might be combined for that.
Okay. Good. Good. You're getting closer. You're getting warmer. Anything else?
I think after the custom clearance.
Yeah. Okay. a multimodal logistics park, by the word, it's multimodal. So it's not limited to one mode of transport. It's not limited to, say, a road. If it's a logistics park providing customs facility, providing non-bonded warehousing facility, which is only road connected, it's not really multimodal. Now, NHAI is building logistics parks around India, but unfortunately, they are using the word multimodal logistics park, but it is not multimodal in its true sense. It's only connected by road. So coming back, it has to have different modes of transport. You looked at it today, 2 months, 3 months now in COVID, where the road transportation really came to a standstill for some time. It's still not picked up. It's still not 100% to where it was, and it will still take a few months to get back to the pre-COVID days. Now, what happens to the customers, even the essential goods, if their complete dependency is on only road for movement and the road stops, then what happens? That's where multimodal logistics facilities come in handy. Can we provide a different mode of transport for the customer? Is that even available? Is the facility there? That is one part of a multimodal logistics park. It has to have different modes of transport. It could be road, it could be rail, it could be road, rail, water, it could be road, rail, air. It could be any combination. That is one aspect. Second aspect is that these facilities should be able to provide all the services the customer wants. Now, majority of the facilities in India, they are called ICDs, inland container depots. Inland container depot is primarily a bonded facility. Now, once the cargo is customs cleared, then what happens to the cargo? It has to move to another warehouse, which may be in the premises of the customer. It may be somewhere outside. Now, I mentioned earlier, a customer's core product is not about logistics. So if the warehouse is in the premises of the customer, then they are spending a lot of money to build infrastructure, which is not really adding value for them. It's a cost center for them. So if there is a multimodal logistics facility which has different aspects, different infrastructure, it may be bonded. Does it have domestic warehouse, non-bonded warehouse? Then the movement cost reduces and the customer gets the delivery. The customer gets the same solution in one location rather than going to multiple locations. That's where the multimodal logistics parks come in. The other multimodal logistics park thing needs to be looked at in the multimodal logistics park is also what is the size of that logistics park. These are infrastructure capex heavy projects. When we are talking about this in India, especially, do we really look at creating infrastructure 30 years, 50 years from today? Not really. I mean, we have a 5-year plan in the government. Do you think 5 years is good enough time to create an infrastructure?
No, sir.
So maybe to complete the demands.
No, sir.
Short term. When you are talking
No, sir.
about long
It's very
term,
short.
it has to, when you are coming here for infrastructure studies. Infrastructure cannot be planned in only short terms. It has to be medium and long term. It has to look at what can happen 20 years down the line, 30 years down the line. I mean, these kind of infrastructure, logistics infrastructure, when you are building a port. Now, I have seen Mundra when it started to what it is today. It's a completely different world out there. A lot of progress has taken place because it was planned. It was looking at the future, not looking at what can be done tomorrow, short term, 2 years, 1 year. No, it will not. So multimodal logistics park also, do they have enough capacity that can take care of what the future demands are? Future, when I talk about future, 20 years down the line, 25 years down the line. Because that's where if you are concentrating such large logistics facility in one area, so you are not creating too much of fragmentation. You are not creating in fragmentation which adds to the cost. And that's what the logistics parks are all about. Are these logistics parks 20 acres facility which can provide fulfill the demand for the next 5 years, 10 years, or they are 200 acres which can fulfill the demand for 30 years. So from an infrastructure point of view, we have to look at catering to the requirement today, tomorrow, but also long term. Can we move on?
Yes.
So a little brief about Adani Logistics. Adani Logistics, the company was formed in 2007. India, the rail operations were privatized, so-called privatization in 2006, 2007. That's when we acquired a container train operator license. It's a misnomer. The word container train operator is a misnomer. We are not container train operators. We are all just wagon owners. The operations in India, unfortunately, is still done by Indian Railways. We just own the rolling stock. The engine is provided by Indian Railways. The crew is provided by Indian Railways. So that's how it is. So it's going through some changes, and it will probably in the future, yes, that operations will also happen by the train operators, not by railways. So that's where we are. 2007, we also opened logistics parks. We started our first warehouse in Gurgaon in 2008. 2018, we acquired Adani Agri Logistics, which is the largest silo company in India, green silo storage company in India. 2019, we went into inland waterways. We are the first private company who's gone into inland waterways. We also got our first auto train in 2019, December. We started movements of cars by rail, 2019. 2020, 2019, the government came out with a policy. The Indian Railways came out with a policy of a general purpose wagon investment scheme. So until then, only the container train operators could be, private companies who would buy rolling stock, which could carry containers. In 2019, government came out with the general purpose wagons also, that you can own general purpose wagons, the bulk trains. So we are the only company who are running general purpose wagons, trains in India, private company. 2021, we are looking at opening air freight stations also, now that Adani Logistics, Adani as a group is also getting into managing airports. So that's our next step. Can we move on?
Yes.
So as a strategy, it's about, as I said earlier also, it's about creating assets. The demand of logistics requirements is growing. We have to, in India, we have to create assets so that we can control the logistics requirement, control and deliver what we promise. Logistics park, we have 5 today. We are targeting in 5 years to go to 15 plus. Train silos, warehouses, container trains. Rakes is, it's container trains or trains. It can be general purpose, it can be containers, it can be auto. It's the word is rakes that we use, the terminology. Also inland waterways. We have 8 barges running today. We are targeting to get to 25 barges by 25. So it's about creating network of assets, addressing the lack of infrastructure in the right place. It's not about creating assets. It's about creating assets in the right place, looking at the future requirements. Eventually, the target is, if the vision is to have one multimodal logistics park in every state in India, one big multimodal logistic park. When I say big, it can be 100 acres to 200 acres, going up to 500 acres. Providing all the services, creating a network of transportation so that there is flexibility, so that we are not constrained by the challenges, and the challenges will come in. Today it's COVID, tomorrow it could be something else. Those challenges will be there. We need to have the ability and the flexibility to provide a solution, and having a network of assets provides us the agility to come to a solution. At the end of the day, all this is being done to ensure that the customer is happy. I'll ask you a simple question. We talked about Amazon. How do you see, how many products do you think Amazon tracks? Any guesses? Wild guesses? You all, I'm sure you all have gone to Amazon.com. You have looked at what they have, what
Sir,
different products they have. Do you think do they track? Amazon tracks?
They try to cover every part of products like electrical, shopping, clothing. I mean, and sort of.
Three. How many? Take a wild guess on number.
So maybe in millions.
Okay, that's very large. How many millions?
15, 20.
Okay. What do you think of the response time of Amazon's when you search on the website of Amazon? What is the response time?
It's very good.
Do you all of you search same products?
No,
No, sir.
Is the response time good?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Are you happy with
yes,
your response? You are a customer for
I
Amazon.
think, sir, it
Yes, sir.
takes
yes, sir.
2 days to
Very
respond to Amazon.
satisfying, sir. With
Yes, sir.
Amazon, very satisfying.
It is
If we are
satisfying, sir.
Prime members, we get it within 2-3 days.
One is getting the product. I'm talking about searching for a product. The
sir,
response time of the website.
within a minute, we can see that our product is where and how. Like,
Yes, sir.
Do you know how many products? Okay, somebody has written, Dhruval, you have written 10 million products Amazon tracks. Amazon globally tracks more than 425 million products. Yet you as a customer are still very satisfied with the response time. And that's where the solution is: elevating your experience, creating the transparency, building a transparency, knowing where the cargo is. Prime member, one of you said 1 or 2 days it is delivered. You can track the cargo. That's the elevation of your experience. You are hooked onto it. As a customers, we are hooked onto this kind of a service. Once you are hooked onto that service, then you don't mind paying a marginal more for that kind of a service. It's about the experience which you hold. Same thing comes in. This is what logistics is all about. How do you create that transparency? How do you deliver what you have promised to the customer? How do you give the information before they hear it from somebody else? How do you address their complaints? How do you, at the end of the day, this is a complex chain. I mean, Amazon, it's tracking, they are procuring material from every parts of India. They may be procuring materials from every part of the world, delivering it to you. How do they manage their supply chain? How do they ensure that the experience that you have as a customer? Do you think Amazon is the only service provider? It's a commodity today. Also, marketplace is also a commodity. As a consumer, we have a choice: Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra, Alibaba. Globally, there are eBay. There are many choices customers have. You will, as a customer, go to where you get good experience, because the difference in price is not there, literally not there. So it's about creating that experience, ensuring that whatever you're promising the customers, you can deliver. Ensuring and in developing parts of the world, that's the biggest challenge. I mean, you talked about 1 day to 2 days. In US, Amazon can deliver in 2 hours. It's because they have the infrastructure there. In developing parts of the world, that lack of infrastructure is resulting in that 2 hours becoming 1 to 2 days. Now, how do we address that? Is about creating that infrastructure. Doctor, can we move on? So, to sum it up, it's about developing, owning, and operating a network of assets, expanding our horizon outside the port gates, understanding and simplifying customers' complex supply chain, which creates stickiness. It's a commoditized business. And for all this, we have to embrace change. We are different companies. Adani Logistics is part of Adani Ports, but we are still different companies. There are 9 ports, 9 ports are 9 different business units. How do we work as one team? Because the customer is not going to talk to Adani Ports as separate, Mundra Port as separate, Dhamra Port as separate, the Adani Logistics team as separate. They look at one company. You talk about Amazon. Is Amazon controlling everything? Not really. Right? They are the ones who's fronting. So if you have any questions, you have any challenges, you speak to Amazon. Is it one team? At the end of the day, you don't go to different parts of, nobody in Amazon will tell you, oh, but this is a problem with finance. You go and talk to finance. No, it's one company. So how do we work as one team rather than working in silos in the team? This is where the biggest change is going to come in the world today. How do we work together? How do we look at just beyond what we are used to? How do we create an experience for a customer that the customer will come back again and again and again and again? That you do not lose that customer. It creates a stickiness. It's working on that psychology of the customer. You give a good experience, whether even the customer may have a bad experience with how is that experience, how that bad experience has been handled. That's where the biggest challenge is going to come in. So we are all moving from just pure logistics company to a service company. The only challenge in India is that service-based logistics has to be backed by asset-based logistics because infrastructure is lacking. So in short, that's what Adani Logistics is all about. In short, it is a very, well, it is a complex business. Although at the end of the day, if you really look at it, it's about just moving cargo from one location to another. How complex can that be? Unfortunately, we make it complex because there are too many players involved, too many different parties involved. That makes it very complex.
Okay, Mr. Mehta, we'll take some more questions.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah. So Dakshish is asking, if a container at port, then who is responsible and how is the customer compensated?
Sorry, I lost you in between. Can you repeat the question?
Yes. So he's asking, if a container is damaged, then who is responsible and how the compensation happens to the client for that?
Okay. Container is damaged. See, container may be damaged. So there are different parties involved. A container is belonging to a shipping line. The cargo inside a container belongs to a customer of a shipping line. So for a port, the customer is not the cargo owner inside the container. It's actually the shipping line. So that's a contractual relationship between the port and the shipping line. Now, there is again the damage is depending upon what kind of damage is there. The cargo inside is getting damaged. We are not responsible as a port. We are responsible only for the container damage. So it's a little bit complex in terms of what is the damage all about, who's caused it, and yes, a lot of this is commercial settlements actually. Insurance law of insurance is such that you have to, if you have an insurance, you have to own the cargo. You have to have insurable interest. If you do not have an insurable interest, then the insurance will not pay. So third-party insurance is done, and the damages are happening. Damages do happen. Damages have to be repaired. And if the container gets damaged, yes, can the port repair the container? They can. So it depends upon case to case.
Dr. Kamal, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning, Sandeep. How are you?
Good morning, sir. I'm good.
So I quickly raised my hand a little long back when I heard that. Pardon?
Sorry, I didn't see that.
That's how I thought the question might become stale, and then I would, get my hands down. But it looks like still relevant. So my question is, Indian Railways is a large monolith, and there are, let's say, from point A to point B, there is one railway line or two railway lines, and there are all kinds of movements that could happen, including passenger movements, military movements, cargo movements. Okay. And when you said that, basically we should not call ourselves a logistic operator, we should call ourselves as wagon owners, and double quote, unfortunately, railways is still the logistics service provider, unfortunately. So, I mean, how large you will need to get to even able to come an iota close to a railway's capability in order to do that function more efficiently, as in function of transporting goods from A to B more efficiently. See the kind of economies of scale and scope that railways has. I don't think in the foreseeable period. So what is that unfortunate thing that I wanted to a little know about that?
Yeah, very good question, doctor. And this is something which we discuss very, very frequently. The challenge is, it's not only that we can create that kind of a network, we can't. It simply put, we cannot, because that infrastructure, it's about the supply and demand. You mentioned, yes, their rail lines are limited, or rail lines require military cargo to move, passengers to move. It's again supply and demand. Are there enough rail lines which can cater to all these transportation needs? Are there enough roads which can cater to the traffic moving on the roads? So it's pure supply and demand. Now, government's job is really focusing, it should be focusing on creating that infrastructure. Movement should be left to other companies. Now, this is how the world has evolved. It's in India, it's the rail operations is run by railways. We are wagon owners. Western countries, everything is outsourced. The government, and to an extent, in some countries, even the building of railway network is also outsourced, and the customers pay for it. So in India, in the foreseeable future, it's the question of changing the policies, getting the policies changed to create infrastructure, to reduce the gap between the supply and demand. Once that happens, everything should improve. One of the things which has taken place in India in the last 10 years is the concept which we are using, or the building up of dedicated freight corridor. In India, railway lines are being used for passenger and cargo movement. Passenger freight, whether we like it or not, is subsidized to an extent that moving from a city between cities is cheaper than moving from home to a railway station. It's that subsidized. Once the dedicated freight corridor, and the government has spent a lot of money in building that infrastructure, once that dedicated freight corridor is operational, the cargo will move only on these freight corridors, special lines, only for freight. Once that happens, what comes in is the reliability of services. Today, Indian Railways, there is no reliability. It's not, the passenger trains are running on a timetable schedule. Freight is not on a schedule.
Correct.
The biggest challenge in logistics is not about the faster transit. It's about the reliability of services. Customers can plan their inventory stock based on what the reliability is. I earlier in the talk I gave an example of Zara, 2 shipments per store per week. They have a stock of 33, 3.5 days. 1 day delay, they lose sales of 33%. This is what they work at. They need to ensure that the flights which come in, they are customs cleared, their cargo is customs cleared, delivered to the store without any delays. It's the reliability of the services they are looking at.
Got it. So unfortunate to the extent that, the challenges which Indian Railways lives with, and probably in the foreseeable period, we don't see that changing much unless huge infrastructure like the DFC, etc., would come up, dedicated freight corridor will come up. Then you will be able to deal with one kind of, today there are 3-4 different products. And the order of precedence, I have worked inside railways, and that's where I'm trying to bring in this question, that the order of precedence key, if you give the operations to a private operator, what will he give preference to? A passenger train, a mail express train, a Duranto train, a fast moving cargo train, a slow moving cargo train, an empty train, a filled up train, the military movements, and the other kind of private cargo movements that has been already privatized. So there are different products, and the order of precedence is going to be extremely difficult given the limited infrastructure. So once additional DFC, dedicated freight corridor, comes up, you'll be able to branch out some of these similar products into one, so that they can be dealt with in a single way. And there probably they could start off with private operations as well. They could, but not the main lines. I guess we are still decades away from privatizing operations on the main lines. That's my take.
I agree. I truly agree. Do not doubt what you are saying. Yes, it will take some time. It's a mindset change. However, at the same time, there are always solutions available. When we talk about a solution for the customer, we talk about asset-based infrastructure creation. So our dependency is not only on the rail line. If we know that, yes, depending upon what the requirements of a customer is, can we move the cargo without rail? Can we do road rail? Can we do only road? It gives us the flexibility to do it. If it's one company doing end-to-end services, so long as we can control it, yes, rail is a preferred mode of transport. Does it mean that we have the dependency only on rail? No. Now, this is where the difference comes in between different logistics companies. You mentioned a few companies, the group mentioned a few companies. How many of them are agile, that depending upon what the requirement of the customer is, they can fulfill that requirement based on what the challenges are and what solutions come around it. If Concor, for example, their dependency is purely on rail. If the rail stops, can't deliver. Is that the only way of movement? Is there an alternative solution possible? Do they have that network infrastructure in India to do that? Which companies, the companies who have that, they will not only survive, they will actually take over the business. So that's where in India, it's important. It's about creation of infrastructure at the right place. One of you mentioned earlier, it should be near the consumption areas. It could be near the consumption area. It could be near the production areas. One of the big things is multimodal logistics park. Some of you mentioned, we talked about multimodal logistics parks. Why not even have integrated industrial hubs and logistics parks? Look at the future. Look at create industrial cities. Have logistics parks as part of that industrial city. Dedicated freight corridor is building logistics parks. They are also, the government is pushing for creating industrial cities. Now, it's about integration. It's about integration of the production. It's about integration of the logistics facilities. At one side, it's about the consumption area and integration of the logistics facilities on the other side. If that network is created, that's what would reduce the logistics costs overall and give that benefit, pass on that benefit to the consumer.
Correct. Right. Fantastic.
Akansha has raised her hand. Can we take this last question, Mr. Mehta, if you have time?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Akansha. Akansha, you wanted to ask something? You have raised your hand.
Sorry, madam, it was accidental.
Pardon, Akansha? Would like to ask something?
No, ma'am, no, ma'am.
No, hand raise was accidental.
So Barkha has raised hands, so I can take one last question, Barkha, from you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Go ahead.
So my question to you is how blockchain is linked with logistics and how it can transform logistics.
Oh, very good question. Blockchain is still at the infancy stage of logistics globally. In India, it's not even there to the extent it can be. So it will transform logistics. Is again, it will give transparency. It is very complex when you're talking about so many companies involved, so many people involved, so many from the production to the consumer. There are multiple people, multiple points, multiple companies, multiple stakeholders involved. Using of blockchain will create a seamless flow. It will give the visibility. It is about information. People today in the world, information and using of that information is the key. Blockchain helps you create that transparency, provide that information flow seamlessly. One is physical movement of goods. The other one is about the flow of information, which is linked to the physical movement of goods. If you know that, then you can plan accordingly. If you have that information, blockchain will help. The question is how many companies are embracing that, or a lot of companies still think that it's just a fad. It will go away. It will not. Companies who embrace it, they will actually do well. And some companies globally, some companies have used and embraced blockchain, which has helped them in tracking the products from the farm to the fork. Farm to fork is food product coming from the farm, delivered to the plate of a customer. Companies have actually done that effectively using blockchain. Walmart is one of them.
Okay, thank you. The last question from me, Mr. Mehta.
Sure.
Yeah. So what would be your advice to our budding managers who are aspiring to make a career in logistics? What would you like to tell them?
Very good question. Logistics is, if you want to make a career in logistics, you have to have a passion for logistics. It's not a 9-to-5 job. It is logistics is a 24/7 job, 65 days a year. It will continuously happen. It's about having the passion for it. It's about looking at, it's not about saying no. There will always be challenges. It is about finding a solution to those challenges. That should be the mindset. It has to be a mindset of finding solutions. It cannot be a mindset of no, it cannot happen. Make a career. It is very rewarding. I mean, at the end of the day, you are delivering something. You are creating something. It's not a mundane job. Every day is a new day. Every day is a new challenge. If you want to embrace that challenge, if that's what gives you a high, gives you a feel of winning, then that's the career you can make. You at the end of the day, you have to have passion for logistics. In short.
So, thank you so much, Mr. Mehta. It was wonderful session, very, very informative, and I really thank you for taking your time out to be with us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for giving me this opportunity. Quite a few questions. I'm sure I've not answered all the questions. So it's a very, I would say, intensive batch, not keeping quiet, which is very good. Ask questions. No question is stupid. No question is stupid. Just remember that no question is stupid. Ask questions, challenge everything. Don't take it for granted, and all the best.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mehta. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.